Officer Tatum has had enough with the anti-white narrative, which there really isn't. So, Officer Tatum, take it away.
I've had enough. This video is brought to you by the Officer Tatum Store. The Officer Tatum Store. Get the merch link in the description section. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I go live or make a video. Make sure you still subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let's get into this. This anti-police, anti-white rhetoric needs to come to an end. I have had enough. I've had enough.
Notice how he slipped that anti-white, anti-police narrative. Whew. Do we have an Uncle Tom here? I think this is an actual Uncle Tom.
I made a video earlier about my son getting a notification on his EA Sports Madden game talking about Black Lives Matter and oppression of black people, which is an opinion by some. It's not verifiable, unequivocal facts, but yet they push it on young.
But it is, though. We can prove with data that black people are disproportionately rejected for loans or get disproportionately worse oh God, words are hard. Qualities of the loan. I'm dumb. I'm sorry, the words have completely escaped me here, but if two people, one black, one white, with identical credit scores go in to get a loan, the white guy is going to get a better deal, better terms, that was the word I was fucking looking for, terms on his loan than the black dude is. That is demonstrable. We also have ample evidence, demonstrable evidence of the way that black people are disproportionately targeted and arrested and convicted for crimes. The way that they are disproportionately punished for crimes. There's plenty of data to prove this, so you're just wrong out the gate.
Young people. And then one of my good friends.
Yes, thank you, Dodge. Loan terms. Just completely flew out of my fucking head.
Who happen to be white, and the funny thing is we have the same last name. We go on rides together, and he showed me on the app, the Strava app, that you just upload your rides to. Everybody have a good time. You like people's stuff. If you see their rides, they're impressive. Pro riders are on there. Everybody's having a good time. Why on God's green earth do they feel they need to give an advisory about how they've been a racist organization all this time? And that black people need to special treatment, and you need to give us handouts, and worried about black athletes. Listen.
No one is asking for special treatment or handouts of black people. We're asking that they be treated the same as white people. And in some cases, yes, we are asking for a little bit more preference given to black and brown people to make up for the overwhelming hegemony of white people. Because if you have been oppressed and beat down for hundreds of years, then just making everything equal will not fix things. It will just perpetuate the way they are. It may fix some things, but it's not going to fix everything. And again, as we talked about yesterday, there doesn't have to be racists in a system for a system to be racist.
Listen, man, as a black man in America, and I've been black for 33 years, I am sick of the pandering. I'm sick of the false equivalence. I'm sick of people painting the picture like I am less than in my own country. This country belongs to me just like anybody else. I have never experienced racism.
Oh boy. The funny thing is, the people who he is railing against are the ones who don't view him as less than. And the people he's trying to support are the ones who view him as less than. Like, that is the great irony of these kind of arguments.
Racism in America. I haven't. That doesn't mean that other people haven't. But I don't have to walk around with my head down walking around acting like a victim when I haven't had nothing to do with that. And none of the people that I know are racist. I don't know a racist. I've never been around racists. Why do I have to be subject to idea that people are forcing on me just because the color of my skin? It makes no sense to me.
What idea do you object to? Is it the idea that black people shouldn't be disproportionately targeted by police? Do you object to that idea? Because that's one of the biggest ones we're pushing forward. Do you object that black people, the idea behind affirmative action, which is that all else being equal, race should be a tiebreaker in hiring? Do you object to that? Because that's one way of elevating black people out of the situation which society has found them in. What specifically do you object to about progressives and Black Lives Matter's goals? What specifically of it?
And then I have a lot of friends who are white. It's not fair that I can have a say and I can talk about my opinions about the American flag. I can give my statements about Black Lives Matter and how ridiculous I believe their organization is. This is America. You have the freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say. Why is it that my white friends don't have that same right?
Because I'm betting a bunch of your white friends are conservatives who would want to shout down and silence people trying to improve things for people with your same skin color. Now, far be it from me to make some assumptions about you, but you've got 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. Getting this video, which came out 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now, has almost 2 million views. So you don't know necessarily what it's like to live in the poor black neighborhood. Now, I don't know how you grew up. I don't know you. I'm sure you would tell you grew up in the poorest part of your city. You had to struggle with this and that, but you made it out, so it can't be that hard. Well, it is hard for a lot of people because the system is stacked against them. Because maybe they don't have your drive to succeed. Maybe they didn't have the opportunities you had. There can be a million different reasons why black people stay in the ghetto, and none of them have to do with them being deficient people. So just because you got white friends, just because you think none of your friends are racist, doesn't mean you know what's going on. And the reason why, particularly when it comes to Black Lives Matter, they've been not centering white voices is because it's not a white people's movement. It's specifically a movement of, by, and about black and brown people, of minorities who have been disenfranchised and oppressed for hundreds of years. They're trying to correct that. But you see them as being uppity or begging for handouts or whatever. And so you don't see it as a legitimate movement because it goes against how you think things work because of survivorship and just general bias.
If you say all lives matter, which is true, that includes black lives, ladies and gentlemen, you get fired. They fired a guy.
Because all lives matter is explicitly a right-wing dog whistle to demonize and discredit the Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah, Black Lives Matter has no problem saying, yeah, all lives matter. But the problem is that that's the ideal. But the reality is black lives don't matter in this society. They are considered disposable and worthless, or at least worth less than white lives. And as a result, they are treated as barely human in many instances. So Black Lives Matter is trying to correct that. And it doesn't help when Uncle Toms like you come along and basically regurgitate the same white supremacist propaganda that has been used to keep your people down for 150 years.
Guy who's a commentator fired him because he said all lives matter in a text message. This is, you are not going to accomplish the goal that you want if you are doing it with hatred and vitriol. If you are doing it with the idea that you're going to force people to kneel and bow down to you for sins of their ancestors.
It's not the sins of the ancestors we have an issue with. It's that they're continuing to perpetuate the system that their ancestors founded. I, well, I don't think anyone in my family is wealthy enough to have had slaves 200 years ago. But it's possible. I doubt it, but I can't prove it. We definitely have been in America long enough to have. But that doesn't matter. I'm not trying to perpetuate the system of white supremacy that grew out of the slavery economy. But when you've got people like Lindsey Graham up there all but explicitly trying to recreate the slave plantations, that's when we have an issue.
I don't understand how we've gotten to this point in the United States of America. How are we letting people do our country like this?
How have gotten to what point, my dude? The point where black people are so much more likely to be pulled over and accosted by the police, are so much more likely to be assaulted, shot, and killed by the police per capita. How did we get here? Well, it started 400 years ago when the prevailing theory of Western Europeans at the time was that black people were subhuman and deserved to be enslaved to keep their vicious urges at bay. And that continued for 200 and 250 years until people started getting wise that maybe they were actually human and they didn't deserve to be treated this way. So slowly, governments started banning chattel slavery. And in America, we fought a war over it, known as the Civil War. You may have heard of it. And after the Civil War, the systems in place, particularly in the South, decided, well, if we can't have black slaves, then we'll just use prisoners to do the labor instead, and we'll make sure that the laws are such that mostly black people are imprisoned, and then we're right back to our slaves, except it's even cheaper because although I have to pay something to the jail or the government or whatever to lease these black people to work on my factory or farm or whatever, I don't really have to worry about them living in good conditions because they're just going to go back to the prison. So, yeah, it was even better for the southern landowner to work within the slave lease program. And even now, with 150 years of progress since then, we still have the school to prison pipeline where children are underserved at school, so they turn to crime as the only means of making any money and end up in prison, where they end up performing labor for white business owners. This is the system that keeps being perpetuated, and what Black Lives Matter, in part, are rebelling against.
They claim that they're protesting the death of one black man who happened to be an extreme criminal. Does that mean he deserved to die?
Holy shit. George Floyd was the catalyst. He's a martyr. It doesn't matter who he was or what he did. He didn't deserve to die on the street with a cop's boot or knee on his neck. Holy shit. He didn't deserve that, no matter what he did. And what he did do was basically just try to survive. I mean, I'm not trying to wash away his crimes. He did some crimes. But the funny thing about our judicial institution is that we do not give summary execution powers to our police on purpose. Even if he had been unequivocally guilty, there were a dozen eyewitnesses who swore up and down that he killed and ate a baby on Main Street. Even if that was his crime, he didn't deserve to die the way he did. That is not a policeman's prerogative to kill someone no matter what their crime. Now you can say, oh, but what about in a shootout? There wasn't a shootout. He wasn't shot shooting back at police. He wasn't shot uh, trying to kill someone else. He was detained and laying on the street. He could have been put in cuffs and put into the car at any time. He was there for 9 minutes, restrained and unable to harm anyone. But Derek Chauvin continued to kneel on his neck for 9 minutes. That is what set it off, because a man could do that, could kneel on this man's neck for 9 minutes and not face any repercussions. Fortunately, thanks to the actions of Black Lives Matter, he will face repercussions. And maybe we can change the system so that there won't be another Derek Chauvin, so there's not another George Floyd. It doesn't matter what George Floyd did or who he was in life. What matters is that he died with a police knee on his neck. And that was a catalyst for change that was sorely needed in the United States of America. Derek Chauvin's actions would not have looked out of place as the catalyst for the Rodney King riots 30 years ago. The fact that we've made no changes in 30 years tells you the change is grossly overdue.
No, it doesn't. The police officer need to be taken to task as well. But he wasn't a Martin Luther King. He wasn't Jesus Christ.
This doesn't fucking matter. None of this matters.
Wasn't many black people that have lost their lives that didn't get arrested and sent to jail 9 times, that didn't do a home invasion where they pulled a gun on a pregnant woman and pistol whipped her, that wasn't high on methamphetamine and fentanyl and resisting arrest at the time of his death. There was plenty black people who live who are unjustified.
Wasn't there was the Surus video we watched last couple weeks ago? George Floyd high on. Wasn't it that it was like an over-the-counter? Let's see. One may have been under the influence of some other drug that could affect his balance. Okay. There we go. In severe heart disease, when Minneapolis police officer put a knee to his neck, but independent experts said the medical problems revealed in the full autopsy report, handcuffed man's death was a homicide. Not very well under stress. Yeah. Complicating wrong. Yeah. Serious heart disease. Imagine that. He's a poor man in America. Yeah. Smoking. Fentanyl methamphetamine produces marijuana's high. Okay. Is not relevant. Right. Okay. Okay. I may have misremembered it. But regardless, again, even if he was high as elephant balls on whatever drug, that doesn't mean he deserved to die.
Probably killed,
And Magman was right. This guy's a fucking joke.
and they don't even get a T-shirt. They don't get coverage. They don't get a T-shirt. Y'all giving this dude 3 funerals, live broadcasting on television. What for? What? And to defend his life in his honor, quote unquote, y'all done killed 9 black people in these riots and protests. You have destroyed millions of dollars worth of property that black people own in this protest. A black retired captain on the police department, 38 years of service, serving his community.
Fuck pigs. No, he's a traitor. I mean, I don't want to call him a race traitor. That's not my prerogative. But he was definitely a class traitor. And it doesn't matter. I mourn for all the deaths caused by these protests. I do. And each of them is a regrettable tragedy. But change needs to happen, or there will be more George Floyds, more Tamir Rices, more Ahmaud Arbery's, more Breonna Taylors. We need to stop this. We need to end the system which perpetuates people dying because the cops didn't like them. Or whatever the fuck stupid miscommunication happened in Breonna Rice's case. Or Breonna Taylor, excuse me.
Serving the black community, serving the police community, has a tremendous reputation. He dies. Y'all don't even talk about him on the news, except Fox News. And then who killed him? It wasn't a police officer. It wasn't the white man. It was another brother who ain't even 30 yet. Done murdered the man. And that brother should have been in prison for a long time.
Black on black violence is a redirection to get people to stop talking about the real issue. Because the heart of black on black violence is the disproportionate disenfranchisement and treatment of black people by the criminal justice system. This is, again, a fact. You can disagree with it all you want, but we have data to prove this.
Because he did an armed robbery. Instead of him doing 7 years in prison, they let him out on probation, which he violated twice. A career criminal killed a good black man, and y'all MIA. Chicago, Illinois, the war zone of the United States of America. Last weekend, 80 plus shootings. 25 black people died. 2 of those black people that I know of, because they ain't gonna never say their names, they don't get no recognition. Just so happened they mentioned 2 of them, 2 18-year-old girls who were aspiring college students, could have probably made a difference in the community. Oh, they dead now. Because people don't know how to handle their anger. They out here shooting people and acting a fool, and nobody's holding them accountable. And I don't know if will they catch the people who did this? Are they going to get justice? Probably not. 83% of the homicides are unsolved in Chicago, Illinois. That's one part of one city in one state in the United States of America.
And again, this violence is all regrettable, but it's not what we're trying to deal with. Or it's a symptom of the system we're trying to correct. The symptom which leads black young people of all races, but particularly black people, to believe that the only way to get ahead is through crime and gang violence. If we can change the system so that that's not quite as profitable, so that maybe just getting a job like everyone tells them to do is just as profitable as selling drugs or protection rackets or whatever else they do in those Chicago ghettos. Is so that doing that is as profitable or less profitable than just getting a fucking job, then we can work to reduce these rates of violence. Because right now, for the vast majority of young people in the ghetto, regardless of race, they can go out, they can work a job, or they can start slinging rocks or bud or whatever drug is popular in their area. And they'll make a lot more money doing that and a lot less work too. Especially if you consider most of their work is going to be either just walking around the neighborhood or for some of them just sitting at home waiting for people to come through. There's a reason why it's so popular, and it's not because they glorify gangster lifestyles or because they think that being a criminal is the best thing to do. It's because it's more lucrative than any other option. And for every basketball star or rap artist or whatever or entrepreneur who makes it out of the ghetto, there's 100 people who didn't have the opportunities or knowledge necessary to make that transition. And we're trying to open up those opportunities so that more people will have them, and to remove the issues these people have in those areas.
And y'all talking about police brutality. Let me give you more stats. In 2019, there was only 9 unarmed black people who were shot by police in 2019. Guess how many were shot in Minneapolis or Minnesota as a state? 1. And just because you're unarmed don't mean you're not a deadly threat. So just for the sake of argument, just say all of them were wrongfully shot. There's 44 million black people in this country. In 2019, 9 of them were shot by police. 7,000 or so of them were killed by other black people. And in the tunes of
more redirection. Okay, this is boring.
Last year, in 2019, 192 black people were murdered. How many black people were murdered by police in Chicago in 2019? And I'm counting the people who are unarmed. Because if you got a gun, I don't know what to tell you. Nobody was killed by the police in 2019 in Chicago who were unarmed. Not one black person.
I literally don't believe that. Okay. Oh, what am I thinking? WAPO, of course. WAPO. Okay. FBI law enforcement. Okay. Average age of the officers who were feloniously killed was 40 years old. The victim officers. Okay. These are officers killed in the line of duty. Okay. So, did he have any kind of website booking? Okay. Yeah, no, so I mean this chart right here. Okay. So right here, 235 black people killed in 2019 by the police in the United States. So show source. All right, Statista. So yeah, he is completely lying and wrong there.
2020, There is already 191 people, black people, that have been murdered this year in Chicago. And they're on pace to double the murder rate from last year. How many police officers have killed a black man in Chicago, Illinois this year, unarmed? Zero.
Yeah, he's just lying
How
here.
media
He's just
influencers
lying.
putting little boxes, media organizations coming out with their little statements, that is not doing anything for black people in America. It's not doing anything. Let me give you solutions. The solution is you need to stop voting for politicians who put in policies that destroy your community. All of these cities that are riddled with crime, riddled with mass death, mass incarceration, police misconduct, are Democratic run.
There it is. The real problem is the Democrats. They don't like black people, so they deliberately create situations where black people are the targets of violence or whatever. This is boring, dumb, and lies. I Yeah, Democrats are bad, but Republicans are worse because Republicans will just ignore black people. They're trying to say that the democratic policies are what leads to these crimes, and it's more that neoliberal policies don't help black people. Republican policies don't help them either. Let's see if he tries to argue Republicans have black people in mind.
States, Democratic run cities: Chicago, Illinois, St. Louis, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland. And some of these places are run by all black people. The worst places on earth to be a black man is in Democratic run cities. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Go look it up for yourself. You need to stop voting for people who don't have your best interests at heart. They put on kente cloths and they going around in African garb appropriating culture, and they've been in office for 40 years and ain't done nothing for you. Name something that Nancy Pelosi's done except take a knee for 9 minutes in a hallway for one black man.
What have the Republicans done for black people? Like, it's all well and good to claim that Democrats don't. And I'll agree. Democrats don't do a lot for minorities. Republicans do less.
Name legislation. Pick one. Nothing. They have done nothing. Nothing. Stop voting for these fools. Second of all, which is most important, I should have made it number one, you need to hold yourself accountable.
Nobody. Yeah, there it is. He's just reading off the NPC script. Democrats don't do anything. Black on black violence is worse, and black people need to hold themselves accountable. I agree that individual black people need to hold themselves accountable for their actions. Sure, absolutely. Everyone needs to be held accountable for their actions. But you can't excuse one person's actions, which are the result of a system which led them to that situation, to led them to that decision.
Somebody told you to sleep around and not protect yourself. Now you got a kid and you ain't got no job. And now you didn't put yourself at a deficit. Ain't no
abstinence only education. That's like one thing I will say about my education. They promoted abstinence, but I don't know if I was in a weird year of sex ed study or if I just had people who were like, no, this abstinence only education doesn't work. They hammered in the only 100% certain way of preventing pregnancy is abstinence. But if you're gonna engage, use a condom. Because using a condom is 97% likely to prevent pregnancy. Like, the abstinence only education is what has led to a great deal of, and the demonization of people in young people in sexually active relationships, assuming there's not bad power dynamics or whatever going on. That is what's led to this. That and the war on drugs and the crime bill is what led to so much single parenthood in the ghetto in black communities. It's not just black people not taking responsibility for themselves. It's a confluence of a number of different systems, most of which predate living black people.
Nobody told you to do that. The white man didn't have his hand on your back, pushing you when you smashing and dashing. That was all you, bro. And now you got a kid. You need to make sure you take care of your responsibilities. And I can't leave women out of this. You knew he wasn't nothing when you met him. You knew he'd been in and out of prison his whole time, and now you done had a baby with him, thinking he's gonna do something different. Now you're a single mom. And I'm not talking about every single mom situation is that way, but you know who you are. But you're blaming everybody else.
No. Yeah, this is just gonna be the same bullshit for 16 minutes. I'm done. This is some NPC, white supremacist propaganda regurgitating Uncle Tom bullshit. This is embarrassing. The fact that this dude thinks that he's somehow speaking truth and telling people what they need to hear when he's saying the same shit the old white Republicans have been saying for decades. Officer Tatum is fucking just a joke. Just a joke. Fuck him. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment because it helps me. Subscribe and ring that bell to help you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.